We were 5 hours into what was supposed to be the perfect road trip. 5 college friends, all crammed into Logan's aging silver SUV, chasing a final adventure before adulthood pulled us in 5 different directions. It was me, Jess, Logan, Marcus, and Talia. People I'd studied with, partied with, cried with. We were family in the way that only 4 years of chaos and closeness can make you. The Summer Wake Festival was going to be our send-off. 3 days of music, camping, and memories in a sprawling open field across the state line. Jess had done most of the planning. No surprise there. She had printed maps, meal plans, and even a shared playlist. Logan had stocked the cooler. Marcus brought his usual energy and one-liners. And Talia had brought her vintage film camera, determined to document our last hurrah. We were somewhere on Interstate 72 when traffic came to a complete standstill. A semi had flipped 2 miles up, and the GPS wasn't giving us any decent reroutes. Logan, ever the shortcut king, switched to a different navigation app, the kind with a sketchy name and a low rating, and it offered a faster, less traveled route. I wish we'd questioned it more. I really do. But the sun was still up. We were singing along to some nostalgic throwback, and it didn't feel dangerous. Not yet. The detour started as a cracked county road bordered by farmland. But soon, it narrowed. Pavement became gravel, then dirt. Trees pressed in on both sides, and the air grew still and heavy. We kept going, joking about how we'd accidentally driven into the set of a horror movie. Logan laughed, but I noticed his grip on the wheel tighten. Talia had lost service 20 minutes ago, and when we checked our phones, all of them had gone dark. No signal, no bars, just dead screens and forest silence. That's when the SUV shuddered, jerked left slightly, and died. No smoke, no warning. It just stopped. Logan tried the ignition 3 times, swore, then popped the hood. I stepped out with him, and instantly the air felt wrong. It wasn't just quiet, it was too quiet. No birds, no wind, just trees and the creak of the cooling engine. When Logan leaned into the engine bay, he froze. "Somebody's been under here," he muttered, pulling back a fistful of sliced wiring. The ends weren't frayed, they were clean, cut like someone used a knife. He looked at me, and I saw the realization hit him like a punch. We didn't just break down. Someone wanted us to. That's when the first rock hit the back window. Not a branch, not debris. A deliberate, heavy thud that sent Jess screaming and Marcus grabbing the tire iron from the trunk. We all turned, flashlights sweeping the trees. Nothing. But we could hear them, crunching footsteps just out of sight. And laughter. Low and mocking. Like we were part of some joke we didn't understand. We ran blindly into the woods, sticking close to each other, stumbling through undergrowth and overexposed roots. I don't know how far we went, maybe half a mile, before we saw a faint, flickering light ahead. A shack. At first, we thought it might be salvation. But inside, we found a nightmare. Stacks of personal belongings, backpacks, wallets, cameras, phones. Some old, some recent. One still had a festival wristband just like ours. Talia sifted through a pile of Polaroids and went pale. "These are people, travelers," she whispered. Some photos had red X's drawn over faces. Others were torn in half. Jess opened a duffel bag and gasped, recoiling. A blood-stained flannel shirt and a necklace, still wet. This was no coincidence. This was a pattern. This was hunting. And we were next. Logan found a crowbar and quietly barred the door. We stay until daylight, then we find a road. But before we could plan, they were outside. Flashlights sweeping across the trees, whistling, laughter. One voice, sickly sweet, called out, "Y'all need a jump?" It was taunting. We could see shadows moving just beyond the windows, circling the shack like wolves. The door handle turned, then jiggled. Then a thud. Jess screamed. We didn't wait for it to break. We kicked out the back window, scrambled through, and ran again, this time toward a creek we'd passed earlier. We followed it upstream, water soaking our shoes and weighing down our clothes, hearts pounding like war drums. Behind us, the woods were alive. We could hear them, always just behind, never quite visible. A flashlight beam swept across the trees just yards away, but we stayed low, crawling through mud and wet leaves until we finally reached an old logging trail. At dawn, filthy, freezing, and running on fear, we found a small ranger outpost, abandoned, but with a working emergency radio bolted to the wall. Jess, crying and shaking, called for help. A crackled voice answered. 45 minutes later, headlights cut through the mist, and we collapsed in front of a state trooper's SUV. We told them everything. They were polite, patient. They followed us back to where the shack had been, but it was gone, burned to the ground, ashes and embers still warm. The forest was clean, like it had wiped the slate itself. No belongings, no photos, just smoke. They logged our statements, but didn't believe us. I saw it in their eyes, kids with a wild story and too much imagination. Logan stopped talking about it completely. He sold the SUV 2 days later. Jess transferred to a college across the country. Marcus hasn't been the same, his usual jokes replaced by long silences. And Talia. She mailed me her camera months later. No note, no explanation, just the camera, and inside it, a final roll of film. I developed the photos myself. Most were from the first day of the trip, us laughing in the car, singing along to the radio, smiling in sunlight. But the last photo wasn't ours. It was a picture of us in the woods, taken from behind a tree. We were walking toward the shack, and we were being watched.